Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to Medium Rare, the show where we take complex, often elusive ideas and distill them into truly essential understanding. I'm Claire.
And I'm Duncan. Great to be diving in again.
For this deep dive, we're embarking on a journey that's, well, it's profoundly fascinating and, frankly, a bit unsettling. We're going to be exploring a very unique, sometimes startling perspective on the spiritual and metaphysical realms.
Absolutely. Our source material today is an extraordinary and pretty dense text. It's titled Problems of Mediumship.
Now, whether you're a seasoned expert in spiritual practices, someone deeply immersed in the metaphysical world, or maybe just beginning to explore these unseen dimensions, our mission for you, our listener, is clear.
Yeah, we're here to really extract the most important nuggets of knowledge from this complex material. We'll delve into a very specific cosmic anatomy.
Right. And crucially, uncover a critical warning about certain, let's say, alluring paths in psychic development, helping you discern truth from potential illusions that, well, according to this text, can be far more pervasive and insidious than you might imagine.
It's really important to set the stage here. This text, it isn't written to just dismiss genuine spiritualism, or the comfort it brings.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Exactly. Its purpose is stated very clearly to show what is false and misleading in many of the alluring paths to psychic powers and how truth may be found instead of error.
And it also aims to show the real nature of the plane that intervenes between man on earth and the spirit world of realities. That's key. Why getting tangled up in its illusions can lead you completely astray.
The original author, described as a Venetian Jew, apparently led an incredible life, traveled widely, practiced medicine, and spent over 70 years studying occult planes, left behind a huge amount of manuscripts.
And the book really emphasizes that these aren't just theories. They're presented as, and I quote, the result of many communications from spirit as well as from experiences of mediums in the flesh.
So it's not presented as philosophy, but more like a record of observations and, well, spiritual testimonies.
What's truly fascinating right from the start is the sheer conviction, almost a confrontational tone, you could say. It positions itself as a direct challenge to a lot of prevalent occult teachings, particularly those it claims were influenced by Orientals and the old occult schools of the Middle Ages in Europe.
Right. The author explicitly calls it a Herculean task to sort out truth from falsehood in what he calls that polyglot mixture, like a jumble of conflicting ideas.
Yeah, and this book is his attempt to clarify the psychic evolution of our planet and the origin of the elemental plane. That's a huge claim.
And it doesn't hold back on the warnings, does it?
Not at all. It asserts that certain dangerous psychic teachings, false doctrines, and distortions of the truth come, and this is direct not from the divine inspirer of truth, but from the dangerous and deceiving spirits who have in all ages contrived to thrust their poisonous seeds of occult wisdom into the most beautiful of religious doctrines.
Wow. That really sets a very specific, high-stakes tone for our exploration today. It immediately highlights the kind of discernment this text thinks is needed for anyone venturing into psychic development.
A powerful claim right out of the gate.
That's a strong opening, all right. It definitely raises the stakes for this deep dive. So, to truly grasp what this text means by the psychic evolution of our planet, it insists we first have to understand the vast universe itself.
Right. It lays out a very particular vision of creation. It moves beyond the common two-element theories, mind and matter.
To something much more intricate, something it calls the trinity and unity of primal elements. This is really foundational for everything else that follows, so let's really get into what each of these means.
Okay.
First up, we have the physical element. This is defined pretty straightforwardly as matter and all that belongs to objective demonstration in its most dense condition, basically the raw, tangible stuff.
Makes sense.
Its dominant color is red, but not just one shade, it varies. From a vibrant rose red to a deep brick red, apparently becoming brown at its lowest point, where it contacts something called the ocean of chaos.
Okay, the ocean of chaos. We'll have to come back to that.
Definitely. The core of this physical element is described as perpetual activity like unresting, untiring, constantly generating vital force. The text equates this to electricity or fire.
So pure energy, basically.
Exactly. It manifests as a sun center of stupendous activity, a place where stillness is impossible, constantly creating, building, then destroying what it made, only to recreate it in a new form, like a massive engine.
A cosmic engine, constantly churning.
Yeah, and the sun center acts like a giant magnet, attracting its own element, then ejecting it in a continuous stream, vitalized, charged with magnetic force flowing through all physical things.
And our sun, how does that fit in?
Our Earth sun is described as a direct offspring of this huge physical element, a great storehouse of physical energy, acting as a powerful magnet for its vital force throughout our solar system.
Okay, so it's crucial here. This isn't just about matter as we usually think of it. It's defined by this relentless energy, this transformative power.
Right, the engine of creation and destruction, a perpetual cycle, even in the physical realm.
So even solid stuff is just an expression of this incredibly vibrant, always moving energy. Got it.
Fascinating stuff. Okay, so from that fiery engine of matter, we move to something, well, much more subtle. Next up is the astral element.
The bridge, right?
Exactly. Described as the vehicle of thought and the element which unites mind to matter or to the physical. Its dominant color is blue, which the text links to mental powers.
Blue for mind. Okay.
But interestingly, it clarifies the astral element itself is inherently colorless. Any color it shows is just a reflection of whatever's being reflected. And since mind is the main influence,
Takes on the blue of mental stuff. Makes sense.
at its highest level, its positive pole, it emits a pure, colorless ray that gets tinted with the gold of the spiritual globe, appearing first pale blue, then silver, then finally a pure white, silvery flame. That flame is the pure spirit of the astral element.
And the other end, towards chaos.
Right, at its lowest pole, pointing towards that ocean of chaos, the blue becomes dark, dull, steel-colored, then ashen gray, before it just gets lost in the blackness reflected from that region of darkness.
Okay, so this astral element is absolutely critical. It's the go-between, the bridge linking mind and matter. Without it, mind couldn't directly affect the physical world.
Right. It's through this element that our thoughts can actually take form, become objective.
So that's why it's called the vehicle of the magic arts and the phenomena producer in, as the text puts it, the alchemist's laboratory or in the science room.
Its core, this is wild, envisioned as a diamond scintillating with brilliant lights, but emanating intense cold, appearing as worlds of ice and snow with this transparent, indescribable beauty.
Cold, not hot like the physical. And here's a key thing for you, the listener. It functions as a mirror for mental creations. It receives the truth, wisdom, beauty from the highest minds.
And preserves them.
Exactly. Preserving crystallized images, thought pictures that are thus depicted and preserved for eternity's imperishable records. So it's not just passive. It's like a cosmic archive of thought.
A cosmic archive, a mirror for thought. Wow, okay, that adds a whole new layer. And finally, the third element, the one tying it all together, the spirit element, also called the soul.
The essence.
Yes, presented as the essence of immortality, the animating, sustaining force of all life. It permeates the other two, actually giving them their immortality.
So it's the source of endurance.
Right. It's the one in the three, the supreme element, the dominant, all-encompassing force. As the soul, it's an essence, giving everything the power to exist as a unit. As the spirit, it's the individual unit, the separate personality that can exist apart from anybody except a spiritual one.
Soul and spirit, two aspects of the same thing.
Exactly. Intrinsically one, but separable into those two expressions. Its color is yellow or gold, with white at its most negative state.
And its core.
Described as indescribably radiant, like a union of a sun and a star, possessing the ultimate power of giving life or death. The text claims that the instant the spiritual fire touches anything created,
It becomes immortal.
it becomes a distinct unit and as such is heir of immortality, no matter how humble it is.
Wow. That's profound.
So just to give you a really simple analogy to kind of help wrap your head around these, think of it like this. The physical is the powerful, fiery engine, the raw power, the constant activity.
Okay, the engine.
The astral is the intelligent control system, maybe the dashboard, that lets the engine be directed by mind, translating thoughts into action.
The controls. Got it.
And the spiritual element, that's the life-giving fuel, the animating force that allows the whole machine to exist, to progress, and to last forever. It's the spark of consciousness giving meaning to the engine and controls.
That's a helpful way to picture it. So zooming out a bit, connecting this to the bigger picture, the author's focus on these three distinct elements rather than the usual two or four is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, it changes everything.
It fundamentally shapes their whole understanding of creation, evolution, and, as we'll definitely get into, the specific dangers of certain psychic practices. The text talks about this cosmic dance between attraction and repulsion.
Ensuring individuality.
Exactly. Ensuring the individuality of each element, even as they combine to form new things. Each element, no matter how blended, keeps its own separate, inherent immortality.
So this whole universe, made of these three elemental globes, it's not just floating in nothingness.
No, it's surrounded by a constantly changing rainbow of light. This is called the aura of the universe, made by the colors emanating and blending from the globes themselves.
And seeing the full spectrum means harmony.
Harmonious unity in the spirit ego, yes. But the text warns that seeing reflections of it, like clairvoyants might see around people, can actually indicate a dangerous condition of affiliation to elemental conditions where colors are all mixed up fragmentarily, showing imbalance.
Okay, and beyond this rainbow aura.
Beyond that radiant envelope lies the region of chaos, described pretty starkly as a dark sea of death.
Not just empty space, then.
No, it's a realm of absolute stagnation, a place of disintegration and fusion of all things where individuality is just annihilated. It's seen as an impenetrable veil between our finite universe and some vast beyond that we, in our current state, just can't grasp or explore.
So it's like cosmic entropy, the ultimate undoing.
Pretty much. It's
Yeah.
where all elements are found disintegrated, not distinct, not harmoniously blended, just aimlessly drifting.
And this links back to the poles you mentioned.
Exactly. The concept of polarity and cosmic recycling is key here.
Yeah.
Each of the three great globes has a higher positive pole and a lower negative pole.
Higher points to the divine, lower points to chaos.
Right. A higher pole is the highest state the spirit can reach. Lower pole, farthest from the divine center, points towards chaos. But these lower poles aren't just about dissolution. They're vital for recovering and using again the lost fragments floating in that somber sea.
So they recycle the waste.
Essentially, yes. Through their magnetic force, they form new suns, planets, stars from these waste materials. It highlights this continuous, perpetual process of cosmic recycling and renewal. What disintegrates in chaos gets drawn back to form new creations, while the higher poles attract the finer essences. It's a huge, unending cycle underpinning everything.
That's a truly vast picture. And our Earth, then, isn't just some random rock. It's a miniature universe that mirrors this whole setup.
Precisely. It duplicates the leading features of the great universe, complete with its own three elements, all evolving towards perfection. But, and here's where it gets even more intricate, our current Earth has this really complex past tied to a whole other kind of existence.
And it's structured in layers, like an onion.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Specific layers or spheres. Let's try and visualize this anatomy of Earth's realms. Imagine our whole Earth universe wrapped in these layers.
Okay, lay it out for us.
First outermost is C, the spiritual protection envelope. A thin ring, basically enveloping Earth, signifying its integrity as a planet.
Like a boundary.
Then D, the dark sea of death. An extreme negative state, and interestingly, the only exit from something called the white crescent.
Okay, white crescent. Noted. Moving inwards.
We find 1, the Earth region of material life, that's us, our
Yeah.
familiar physical world.
Like home turf.
Below that, layer 2, the region of earthbound spirits. Lots of lands here, bright and dark, spirits at all stages. Crucially, this region forms a barrier, a buffer against the next layer.
It's a shiz.
3, the semi-physical region, which is the Elemental-Astral Plane. This is the zone the text warns about, where certain mental development leads to affiliation. It refines things astrally, but doesn't spiritualize them.
Elemental, not spiritual. Got it. Deeper still.
4, the astral plane of the Earth. Here, the astral element is dominant. Not pure, but capable of producing really striking effects with our own astral bodies.
Okay. And the core.
5, the white crescent. This is described as pure astral element, what's left of its original form now. It's called the frozen land of death, and the gate of death inside it is the only way out, leading straight into that dark sea of death we mentioned.
Wow. That's quite a structure. Frozen land of death. Intense.
It's a lot to take in, but what's truly fascinating and essential for understanding the warnings that are coming is Earth's prior existence. The text calls this the astral world era.
A previous version of Earth.
Exactly. It states our Earth has known existence first in another and more sensitive, more rapidly evolving astral condition. Think about that. Our planet had an astral stage where mind literally dominated creation.
Mind dominated. How so?
Anything conceived mentally would find rapid, enduring form in that element, which was, get this, 1,000,000 times more responsive than matter is now.
1,000,000 times. So our current physical world is built on the remnants of that. That's a huge shift in thinking. What was life like back then?
Totally different. A key characteristic was this incredible tenacity of identity. Astral forms just didn't change much for very long periods. That's why the text says astral seeds still exist as astral roots on Earth's elemental astral plane today, where astral bodies can still germinate from.
So, like echoes of the past?
Kind of. And life. Well, men would live forever while the astral world lasted. No need for physical food, they drew sustenance straight from the atmosphere by willpower.
Just by willing it.
Apparently. Even procreation was mental, leading to offspring of the intellect, like art or thought creations. But, and this is important, these creations weren't truly immortal. Only the spirit element gives true immortality.
Okay. But this astral world wasn't perfect, right? You mentioned extremes.
Right. There were stark extremes in temperament, and here's where we see the seeds of later problems. On one side, pure negation. Self-centered, isolated beings, stuck in a petrifying, unprogressive condition, just clinging to what they were, like that frozen diamond core of the astral star, lost in contemplation, not moving forward.
Stuck. And the other extreme?
The vampire individuality. Highly receptive, absorbent, like an octopus, the text says, constantly magnifying desires, building themselves up by absorbing from others. Also a barren condition, because it only never gives life beyond itself, always seeking knowledge and power for self, never contributing anything truly life-giving.
So this advanced astral world had these deep flaws preventing real spiritual progress. What happened to it?
It was destined to end suddenly. The text calls it the astral world's end, or the flood. Those unprogressive or evil types, the negators and the vampires, literally sank with the lower polarity of the astral world as it withered away.
Sank. Where?
They became chained to the mummifying shell of a dead world that just kept shrinking. They were, as the text graphically puts it, drowned in very truth, immersed to the deep waters of oblivion.
Like the biblical flood.
The text draws a direct parallel. The story of a flood covering the material earth, saving only Noah, has its counterpart, according to this, in the extinction of the astral world by a flood that left no survivors from that specific stage of evolution.
So why all this detail about a past astral world? Is it just history?
Not at all. That's the crucial point. It directly explains the nature of the elemental astral plane today and why it's so dangerous for psychics and seekers. The lost spirits from that era, especially the corrupt ones who wouldn't progress, are key. They're described as imprisoned mentalities in the dark center of that astral cone we talked about, still exerting influence.
So our current Earth isn't as old physically as we might think.
That's what the source argues. If it evolved just from insensate, formless matter, it would be older. Instead, current forms are recreated under physical conditions, but originate from that astral stage. They still have a deep affinity for astral influences.
So we're living inside the matrix of the old astral world.
In a way, yes. Preparing for Earth's final birth into the true spiritual elements. It means our world and us as individuals are still deeply connected to that astral past and very susceptible to its lingering influences.
And this connects to reincarnation.
Absolutely. And here the text makes a really critical distinction. Reincarnation versus rebirth. It says quite clearly, the law of rebirth is a law of the universe. The law of reincarnation is a law of the physical element.
Okay, break that down. What does that mean for us?
It means reincarnation, specifically return into the body of the flesh, is seen as a law of the lower kingdoms, inferior types, and specifically a law of the elemental astral plane.
So coming back into a physical body isn't always progress.
This text strongly argues against that idea for the higher soul. True spiritual progression means not repeatedly reincarnating into dense matter. In fact, doing so is portrayed as a major risk leading to imprisonment and losing higher powers by getting tangled in the elemental plane.
Imprisonment? How?
By strengthening ties to that lower plane. For example, an infant, having made no ties, can pass straight into spirit life. But an adult who has made ties through life choices might have to wait in an anteroom to spirit life until their spirit body recovers enough independent vitality to grow as a spirit.
And if you develop your astral body too much,
the longer it might take to reincarnate. Or, in the most extreme etherealization, in what it calls the gray land, it can become impossible to reincarnate. You've used up all your spiritual oil of life on that astral form.
Wow. That's a profound warning. Not all returns are progress.
Exactly. A very urgent warning for anyone seeking spiritual growth.
Okay, that really brings us to the core warning of this text. And this is where it gets, well, really interesting and maybe a little chilling for some listeners. This elemental astral plane, often mistaken for the true spirit world.
Yeah, a common trap. according to this?
It's depicted here as a realm of profound illusion and significant active danger. Not just a passive layer, but a parasitic region rooted in the leftovers of that lost astral world, and it's actively trying to ensnare people.
Let's break down its anatomy again, as the text describes it. This elemental astral plane is shown as a kind of transparent film or sac that literally wraps around the entire first sphere of Earth life, from dense Earth up to its highest point.
And it refines things but doesn't spiritualize them.
Precisely. It uses astral ether to refine mental or material substances. But the text is adamant. It does not spiritualize them. These refined things are only like elementals, falling under the law of the lower polarity, which means destruction follows construction.
So any permanence there is just illusion.
It's due to the fossilizing, preservative nature of the astral element itself. Its apparent spirituality is one of the main illusions. The text starkly claims, when our physical Earth eventually perishes by fire, everything on this astral plane perishes with it. There's no immortality to be gained by affiliation to its conditions.
No immortality. Okay, and the sinister part, the cone.
Right. At a specific region, away from the sun's direct rays, this astral sac forms a deep reservoir of astral fluids that flow into this tall cone, or bulb root, floating ominously over the Earth plane.
A fungus growth, it called it.
Yeah, an excrescence, a fungus growth, identified as the sinister side of the legacy from the astral era, explicitly called a parasitic region, created by those corrupt and evil spirits from the lost astral world, the Serpent Men.
The ones who were too strong to be extinguished.
Exactly. Too strong as individualities, too powerful as mentalities. Couldn't incarnate physically, so they survived by latching onto the Earth seed as parasites.
And they reach out from this cone.
Yes. They extend threads or long root suckers, finer than spider silk, casting them across Earth's elemental plane, especially at night. These form a net of subtle, attractive power designed to pull in anyone who establishes a magnetic link with it.
And if you get caught in this net, what do you see?
The illusions are designed to be utterly captivating, overwhelmingly beautiful. The text warns this realm presents floral islands, marvelous vistas, magnificent buildings, great cities, even great spirits who seem to be from the highest spheres.
So the seer thinks they're seeing everything.
Yeah, they imagine all creation must be passing before his eyes, like a divine panorama.
But it's all fake, the mirror of illusions.
That's the chilling warning. All these magnificent visions, these majestic spirits, are merely reflections on that marvelous astral aura of the Earth, or just thought pictures thrown upon that focus of attraction by the minds of the lost spirits of the astral world.
So the astral aura is like a movie screen.
A sensitized mirror, yes, reflecting images from other minds or even past astral creations. But they aren't real entities or places in themselves. Light seems everywhere. A mirror, the mirror of illusions that gives everything objectivity on that plane by reflecting it from somewhere else.
And that tall cone makes it worse.
It's seen through luminous, transparent astral vapors, forming a circular mirror with no ending. This allows for endless panoramas of living realities, past histories, shadows of future things, all blended into one phantasmagoria. And chillingly, it explicitly says affiliation to this mirror gives the power of seeing in the black mirrors used in evil magic. And that's the absolute core of the danger, isn't it? Why are these illusions so compelling, so dangerous? Because they aren't random. They're carefully crafted by these powerful mental giants, the Serpent Men using the astral element as their canvas.
Masters of illusion, not truth bearers.
Exactly. Their sole purpose is to ensnare. It's a sophisticated trap. The whole display is likened to someone degraded calling up visions of past power, projecting them onto a mirror, trying to cheat everyone, even themselves, hoping the power isn't really lost.
And this links to vampirism.
Directly. This deep dive reveals the dark heart of vampirism in action on this plane. That beautiful lotus land imagery. It's deeply deceptive. Look closer, the text says, and you'd see huge octopus plants with long, snake-like roots that are actually giant suckers draining vitality.
With octopus plants sucking life.
Yes. These spirits are vampire individualities who build up itself with everything it can absorb and has no desire to give life or form to anything beyond itself. They have abnormal powers of sucking in all that comes within reach from countless sensitives over ages. They've filled this gray realm with vitality stolen from many sensitives. They are the champion vampires of their plane.
So beauty there can hide a parasitic intent, a crucial takeaway.
Absolutely. And it gets more specific about who you might encounter. The text discusses false masters and shining ones. Many masters met in occult practices aren't truly high spiritual beings. They're described as dominant men who lived long ago.
Dominant men with preserved bodies.
Yes, possessing earth bodies of great age and miraculous stage of preservation. But these are just deputies from the real masters, who are none other than the serpent men themselves.
So intermediaries for the real manipulators.
Pretty much. This group is called a mongrel crew, not true astral race members. But they wield marvelous power over the elements, building almost anything they want on the elemental plane. They look magnificent, like angelic beings or gods and goddesses with halos, amazing flight.
But it's all powered by stolen energy.
All due to their superabundant supply of luminous ether absorbed from countless spirits and sensitives. Beneath the dazzling surface, they're described as appalling in the grossness of their passions and the colossal evils of which they are the parents.
And they're stuck in the past, appearance-wise.
They can't assume appearances from eras after the deluge, because their power comes from that pre-deluge astral root they used to build their giant astral bodies. The text even specifically names astral bridegrooms as unnameable abominations, seeking power for mortals but incapable of becoming parents on any plane.
Appearances are definitely deceiving in these realms, then.
Profoundly. And this leads to a very direct critique of Oriental and occult teachings. The source claims many psychic associations and Oriental schools of occultism are permeated with the teachings of these dangerous entities.
Offering alluring paths, but to the wrong place.
Exactly. Paths that seem like psychic power development but actually induce affiliation to the elemental-astral plane, not true spiritual ascent. For instance, practices like vibrating in unison,
What about those?
said to unwittingly tune individuals into the net of the serpent men, drawing in lower nature forces and feeding that lotus land. It frequently arouses the lower nature forces and reawakens the animal nature and its cravings, pulling you down, not up.
Even things like meditation, mysticism.
Even revered practices like mysticism and contemplation get a warning. Extreme contemplation of one theme or excessive visioning on the mystic planes, which, remember, this text says are often just reflections in the astral mirror, can paralyze the mind, leading to that petrifying, unprogressive condition.
How does contemplation make you parasitic?
Living solely in spirit, lost in contemplation, without using the physical body's functions, can make mystics unconsciously draw life essences from available sources. They inadvertently become parasitic. It's a path of barrenness that clings to its condition. The calm achieved is like a statue's, not a living, progressing being's.
So detachment, if extreme, can backfire into stagnation and unintended vampirism.
Yeah, it's the insight. And significantly, artistic temperaments are seen as particularly vulnerable. Artists, writers, musicians, poets. Their heightened sensitivity can easily put them en rapport with the astral plane.
Which seems like increased inspiration, right?
It appears to bring an immense increase of power to imagination, but the text argues it's just stimulation into abnormal activity. It exhausts the spirit ego's limited vital essence faster. Their powerful mental creations can become thought forms, drifting astrally, feeding those parasites if not given material form.
And the artists themselves can become a vampire.
A super vampire, potentially. Unknowingly exhausting others with mental power. The recommended fix. Strikingly, consistent material activity, grounding oneself physically to check the astral development.
Wow. A radical take on creative inspiration. This whole deep dive challenges so many fundamental ideas about human evolution, about mediumship itself. The text basically argues that how we engage with these unseen forces dictates our spiritual destiny.
For better or for worse, yeah.
Let's look at man's threefold body. This directly critiques the standard 8-man theory. The text says our personality has 3 bodies. Physical, from physical elements, astral, from an astral seed, and spirit from the divine.
3 distinct bodies.
Right. And while the physical body evolved through lower matter, the crucial point here is man's soul never was in any of them. Instead, the elemental astral body is the missing link, a film covering the physical body, which the soul then transforms.
So the soul shapes the body, not the other way around.
That's the argument, which directly contradicts the common view of Darwinism regarding the soul. It rejects the idea the soul evolved through ape-like stages. Instead, man's higher soul transforms the sensitive, sponge-like materials of the elemental form into the likeness of the man who wears it.
Even the most degraded human retains that spark.
One indestructible spark of God-given manhood, it says. A thread linking back to the higher type, never truly lost. The idea that man absorbed lower types is called a vampirish concept, seen only by those viewing the elemental plane. Soul shapes matter, not the other way around.
That's a fundamental difference. And Eden, how does that fit?
What the most profound reinterpretations here is the story of Eden. The temptation isn't just a moral slip-up. It's seen as Adam and Eve being induced to put themselves into affinity with the lowest conditions of the elemental-astral plane.
The fruit.
The forbidden fruit wasn't a literal apple, but an illusion created mentally by the serpent man. A materialized thought form containing the quintessence of the fluids on the elemental-astral plane, an elixir, a narcotic essence, filled with magnetic fires from dark regions.
And eating it gave them astral vision.
Consuming it through their will gave them power of vision on that plane, immersing them in its deceptions. It transformed their constitutions, giving them an immediate share in the astral element.
And the serpent wasn't Satan.
No. The serpent in Eden is clarified as a slave of Satan, representing the lower polarities of evil in their most treacherous aspects. Satan is the prince of evil, a spirit of the universe, whose job is to test the quality of man's virtues.
So a hierarchy of evil.
Yeah.
Satan the tester, the serpent the tempter.
Exactly. Satan is portrayed as majestic, intellectually powerful, his divine spark of true greatness, giving evil its immortality as a twin force to good. The serpent represents the slave souls of evil, twisting, wriggling, cowardly evil. The temptation was a test, yes, but also a dangerous entanglement with a lower deceitful force.
And the fall was actually protection. That seems paradoxical.
Startlingly, yes. God sent Adam and Eve into dense form matter as a protection from those lower elemental astral planes. This immersion in matter also deadens the acuteness of his spiritual perceptions, making it more difficult for spirits to tempt him.
But it cut them off from spirit life, too.
Intentionally.
Yeah.
This protective barrier also cut off from the spirit side of life, leaving humans to develop originality and intellect within the physical realm. The physical body, then, is absolutely vital in this view. It shields the spirit from the irritating, potentially devastating effects of that lower polarity.
Okay, Duncan, so what does all this incredibly detailed cosmology and history mean for you, our listener, especially if you're exploring psychic abilities today? This text is essentially offering a critical filter.
A warning sign.
Exactly. Warning that some development paths, however appealing, lead straight to entanglement, not liberation, potentially resulting in what it calls a living death or even imprisonment on that elemental astral plane.
Let's get specific about the dangers of mental development for mediumship. This is a core warning. Methods taught by these Oriental schools and psychic associations, rooted in those old antediluvians.
Entities from the prior astral era, yeah.
Their methods aim to thin the material envelope, which sounds like progress, but the text says it puts students directly into affiliation to the astral zone, and that's presented as incredibly dangerous.
What are the red flags? The signs of danger to watch for?
If sensitive people start hearing myriad voices or confusing waves of harmonies, or seeing rainbow lights, stars falling, changing into angels' faces, or any rapid metamorphoses.
Things often mistaken for high spiritual contact.
Exactly. According to this text, these are critical indicators that the physical element in the body has become diluted with too large a proportion of astral fluids and is ceasing to protect the ego. The barrier is weakening.
And the consequences if you keep going down that path.
Severe, truly chilling. Attaining this heightened astral sensitivity could mean losing the power of entering spirit life. If you try and fail, the sensitive cannot again re-enter the earth body, but will remain attached to it during its span of life without control over its function.
Attached but not in control, like a living death.
That's exactly how it's described. A clairvoyant would see the spirit in its astral form, outside the body but unnaturally tethered, in a condition of living death. The body lives on as a paralytic, absolutely helpless yet alive, automatic functions working, but no mental powers.
And the text implies this happens more than people realize.
It warns the public doesn't know how many pupils trained for this rainbow path have ended this way, or died trying to regain control.
Wow, and this kind of development, it leads to fakeness. Parasitism.
Yes, artificiality and parasitism. 99 out of 100 practicing these occult formulas, it claims, never get beyond functioning on the elemental astral region. Their clairvoyance, visions, abilities are always an artificial production, relying on appropriated power, borrowed vitality from true seers or other sources.
So they become parasites.
Exhausting parasites, yes. To those around them, or even to Earth's own vital forces, the astral body, artificially stimulated, becomes a super vampire, absorbing vitality. Even dwelling on mental creations like art or writing without giving them physical form feeds these astral parasites and drains the creator's own vital essence. Okay, so if that's the dangerous path, what's the alternative? Is safe engagement even possible?
The text makes a clear distinction: true mediumship versus vampirism.
Okay.
True mediumship, it insists, has no affinity to that condition of discarnate existence on the elemental astral plane. Safety comes directly from absence of magnetic affinities to the elemental astral plane.
So it's about avoiding connection to that plane, not mastering it.
That's the key insight. And remember that second layer, the region of earthbound spirits, that actually acts as a blanket of protection for us in the flesh. A dense condition blocking elemental astral beings from easily encroaching. A natural safety barrier.
And what about things like materializations? That sounds like manipulating elements.
The source is very pointed about manipulation versus true power. It states all metamorphosis of the elements, all building up of forms, as with materializations, means affiliation of medium and circle to the conditions of the elemental stage and the astral element.
So it involves using that dangerous elemental astral body.
Yes, man's heritage from the prior astral era. Such practices are seen as a perversion, a way for elemental spirits to manipulate things for illusion, not tapping into true spiritual power, which flows directly from the divine.
Which explains why protecting the medium is so important.
Absolutely. And why wise and good spirits throughout history have consistently discouraged general mediumistic development for the public. They know a new era of communication is coming, just like in past ages.
And higher spirits are working to clear the way.
Higher intelligences are actively working to clear away the entanglements of old errors, old evils, old defeat teachings, all to prepare humanity for safer, true communion. Their goal is to organize mediumship, open their own controlled channels so true mediums can be understood and, crucially, protected from these lower influences.
So for you, the individual seeker, how do you stay safe?
The path to protection is outlined clearly. Change of magnetic conditions is most important. Change of climate, of occupation, of everything. And crucially, the physical body is that vital zone of protection. Its value should never be thrown away, either consciously or unconsciously.
So things like prolonged meditation, fasting, those are risky.
Excessive practices that weaken the physical hold or unnaturally thin the material envelope are specifically warned against. They open the door to dangerous affiliations with the astral zone. Instead, material activity engaging with the physical world is recommended as the essential counterbalance to mental overactivity, keeping that protective barrier strong.
This has been an incredibly detailed and, yeah, in many ways, an urgent deep dive into this very specific spiritual cosmology. The core message that really comes through is clear. Knowledge is power, absolutely. But misused or misunderstood knowledge, especially in these psychic realms, can lead to some serious entanglement and illusion.
Definitely a cautionary tale woven through it all.
To recap the key warnings for you, our listener, we've seen how this elemental astral plane, born from the leftovers of a past astral age, can lure people with these magnificent, seemingly irresistible illusions.
And they're not random. They're actively powered by these parasitic entities, the serpent men and their deputies, operating as masters of deception.
We've explored how practices like intense, maybe unbalanced contemplation, certain vibrational work, or just uncritical psychic development can unknowingly hook you into this dangerous realm instead of leading to genuine spiritual ascent.
Right. The promise of quick phenomena or instant power is presented here as a real siren song, often masking a parasitic relationship that drains the spirit's vitality and even risks its imprisonment.
But the text does point to a true path. It consistently emphasizes that real spiritual evolution is about progressing out of these lower polarities, out of the elemental plane, not getting stuck in it.
It's about cultivating the higher soul, developing character through conscious choices, aligning with eternal progression, not absorption or illusion. True spiritual vision, it argues, comes from a ripe spirit ego, earned through soul development, not forced by manipulating the astral body.
So connecting this to the bigger picture for your own spiritual journey, Duncan.
This text really implores us to be profoundly discerning, to question everything, especially in realms promising immediate power or dazzling visions. The choice, the author implies, is always there.
Alluring paths versus the narrow way.
Pretty much. Follow paths promising quick gains and amazing experiences, which might bind us to lower, illusory conditions, or seek the true and narrow way leading to genuine, often slower spiritual life and lasting freedom. It's presented less as morality, more as the automatic working of universal laws.
And freedom of thought is key.
Absolutely. It reminds us freedom of thought, once lost, is hard to regain, and suggests No tyranny is worse than mental dominance, especially by subtle, unseen forces masquerading as guides or masters.
Okay, so let's leave our listeners with a final thought to chew on.
All right. Consider this provocative thought as you continue your own exploration. If the physical body truly is such a powerful barrier and a protection from these lower elemental astral influences, what does that actually imply about our daily choices,
Our physical health, our environment.
our well-being, our surroundings, our very engagement with the unseen world? How does that perspective change your understanding of what spiritual progress really means? And what might it demand of us in our ordinary waking lives?
Is true wisdom found in effortless visions? Or is it earned through the sometimes difficult work of strengthening our inner core, our connection to the physical, even if it means saying no to some immediately alluring psychic experiences?
Something to definitely mull over.